Oh, the work was hard and the wages low. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. I guess it's time for us to go, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, the voyage is done and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her.
What we now call Leasowe Lighthouse was built in the 18th century to house a navigation light. When it was in use, it was known as the Mockbeggar Light, taking its name from the nearby stretch of coastline, Mockbeggar Wharf. The Mockbeggar Light guided ships into the port of Liverpool and was operational until 1908. The tower is 33 metres high, and the floors below the light room provided accommodation for the keeper and his family. The tower was built on a narrow strip of land between the coastal sand dunes and a small stream. The stream is still here, but the sand dunes have been replaced by these ugly concrete sea defences. On the other side of the stream lay the tiny settlement of Lingham. Lingham as a place has long since vanished, although its name lives on as Lingham Farm.
The tower was going to be 110 foot high, so the diameter of the base would be 1/3 of that. When the diggers had first arrived, I instructed them to excavate a hole 38 feet in diameter, until they found the bedrock, be that 6 feet down or more. The clay they dug out would be enough for about 1/4 of the bricks needed for the tower. For the rest of the bricks, I showed them where to dig a clay pit. Well, this wasn't too far from where the tower would be built. That meant the clay and the bricks wouldn't have to be carried too far.
The brickmakers arrived in the spring of 1762. They moved into the houses the clay diggers had been living in over the winter. These were roughly built hovels made from material found on the beach, timber from the wrecks of ships.
My father and 4 other lads had been here over the winter, digging clay. When I got here, there were heaps of clay everywhere. The frost and rain was good for it, making it better for bricks. Every day I'd collect driftwood from the beach to keep us warm and for cooking. I'd also walk to the farm at Lingham to buy provisions. The brickmaking was heavy work, so I took no part in it. My 2 brothers and 3 lads used the wheelbarrows to take the clay to the brickmakers. There were 15 men working as brickmakers, and they spent all day pressing the clay into moulds, then turning out the bricks. Then they would lay them on racks to dry.
30 bricklayers arrived around the beginning of May. Amongst them were Dutchmen who knew how to build the open kilns called clamps. Raw bricks, made by the brickmakers, were stacked high with layers of wood and charcoal, and the clamps would burn slowly for days, baking the bricks hard. 20 carpenters arrived around the same time. Well, they came by boat from the shipyards of Wallasey Pool, bringing with them tons of timber scaffolding. Ready sawn timber was also shipped in from the Baltic to be used for the flooring and the staircase inside the tower. But most important of all was the cargo of limestone from North Wales. Limestone to make mortar. Without mortar, we couldn't build a tower of bricks.
There were now so many people living here, this place was bigger than the village of Lingham. Food had to be brought from Liverpool by boat, so no one went hungry.
The scaffolding was built around the foundation hole to the full height of 110 feet. The bricklayers built the tower inside the scaffolding, guided by a plumb line hanging down from the exact centre. The walls were a yard thick at the bottom to support the massive weight of the tower, and it was arranged that the tower got narrower towards the top to give it added strength.
By the end of June, the brickmakers had finished their work, and we had left this place the same way we'd come, by boat. I never came this way again, so I never saw the tower finished, or the light that shone from the top out across Liverpool Bay.
The bricklayers worked 6 days a week, and for up to 12 hours a day. They finished the tower in October. Before the scaffolding was taken down and returned to the shipyard, the tower was given a protective coat of limewash. By Christmas 1762, the work was finished, and the tower stood proudly, gleaming white.
The letters on the plaque set into the wall of the tower above the door stand for Mayor William Gregson. Gregson was one of a number of wealthy 18th century Liverpool merchants who contributed funds to enable the Mockbeggar Light to be built. Gregson became the mayor of Liverpool in 1762, and he was in office when the construction of the tower was finished, so he had the honour of having his initials carved into the building.
The Mockbeggar Light first shone on the evening of January the 1st, 1763. The building of the tower cost us Liverpool merchants a great deal of money, but we deemed the navigation light essential. Markers on the shore were all very well when the weather was clear and in the full light of day, but at other times ships were failing to find their way into the channel and were running aground. If a ship couldn't be refloated, it had to be abandoned and would probably be wrecked at the next storm to hit the coastline.
At this time, Liverpool was a very rich city, its wealth based on trade and commerce. A testament to how wealthy the city was in Gregson's day can be found in the many fine 18th century buildings that are part of present-day Liverpool. The tower was originally built with a half-open top to accommodate a brazier of burning coal. This was the usual method of providing a navigation light. However, around the same time as the tower was completed, the Liverpool dockmaster, William Hutchinson, developed an oil lamp with a parabolic reflector. Let's meet William Hutchinson. We'll find him at the Athenaeum, a Liverpool gentlemen's club.
I went to sea as a boy, worked my way up through the ranks, without any formal education. I made my money as a privateer. When I retired from the sea, I became Liverpool dockmaster. It was a position I held for a good many years. The light I invented was the flame of a whale oil lamp placed in front of a large curved reflector. I made the reflector from shards of broken mirror bedded in plaster. The Mockbeggar Light, as it was known, was visible 16 miles out to sea. How did I come to invent such a revolutionary light? Some say I overheard a wager in a gentleman's club on how to read a newspaper at 10 paces by candlelight, and it was I who invented the mirror that magnified the light. There's another story, of course. On a voyage up to the Baltic, I saw a Swedish light that was extraordinarily bright. And on inquiring, I discovered it was the flame of a whale oil lamp placed at a focal point in front of a large concave sheet of polished steel. That is where I got the idea. The Mockbeggar Tower, well, that was the first tower in England to use my new light. And people would come from far and wide to this desolate place just to climb the tower and witness the light for themselves.
In the 18th century, the only safe way into the port of Liverpool was to approach the mouth of the river along the Rock Channel. A stretch of deep water, known as the Horse Channel, led to the rock channel from the open sea. The Mockbeggar Light worked in partnership with the Bidston Light, which was located on a hill 2 miles further inland. An approaching ship would align the two lights, one above the other, to set a safe course down the middle of the Horse Channel.
As our ship turned into the Horse Channel, I'd be on deck watching for the Mockbeggar Light to come into line with the Bidston Light. Then I knew we were nearly home. We'd sail a bit further, then anchor for the night. On the morning tide, we'd turn into the rock channel. It was marked by floating oak casks anchored to the seabed. Now we could see Liverpool ahead of us, and it would only be a matter of hours before I felt solid ground under my feet again.
Liverpool in the 18th century was unique because it had a dock where ships could unload at any state of the tide. Amongst the clutter of warehouses and workshops built around the dock were dozens of alehouses.
Once we were paid off, I'd head for the nearest alehouse and leave it to the dock workers to unload the cargo. Cotton from the Americas. I came to hate even a mention of the word cotton. To hear the likes of Mr. Gregson talk, it was clear cotton was worth much more to him than the lives of ordinary sailors.
It is said that Liverpool is built on cotton. However, this is just a metaphor that has led to the myth that cotton bales were used as the foundations of the buildings. Some people will also tell you the same is true of the Mockbeggar Tower, that it stands on bales of cotton that were washed up on the beach from a shipwreck. For such a massive structure to have stood for so long, the brickwork of the tower must be bedded on the sandstone bedrock. And this is what it will look like below ground. These are images of the excavated remains of Liverpool's 18th century dock.
Cotton is not even half the story. What's conveniently forgotten is that when we left Liverpool and took our last look at the Mockbeggar Light for nigh on a year, we were bound for West Africa to pick up slaves to take to the Americas. We'd pack 150 Negroes below deck with the rats. These poor souls had no daylight and were chained so they couldn't move. They were fed barely enough to keep them alive. And those that did die were thrown to the sharks.
Would I have been such a successful merchant if I had allowed a significant amount of the cargo to die before it reached America? Of course not. A 10% loss of the cargo was tolerable, but I never allowed it to be more than that.
That's right, Mr. Gregson. Slaves were just cargo, no different to cotton. So, I think it's more appropriate to say that the foundations of the Mockbeggar Tower weigh heavy on the blood and bones of Negro men, women, and children.
In 1892, Thomas Williams took the post of Keeper of the Light. By this time, the Mockbeggar Light was nearing the end of its useful life. A new channel had been created which gave direct access from the open sea to the mouth of the River Mersey. This was also at a time when sailing ships were being replaced by steam-powered vessels, ships that were not reliant on wind direction and were more tolerant of the ever-changing tides.
Moved into Mockbeggar Tower with my husband and our 11 children in 1892. By then the light had guided ships into Liverpool for nearly 130 years. But I could see the end was coming. They'd created a new channel which provided safer access into the Mersey. The horse channel became redundant. My husband was getting depressed because fewer and fewer ships were relying on our light. Perhaps it was a blessing he died 2 years after we came here, and he wasn't around to witness the light being extinguished. His death meant that I had to take on the job of keeper of the light and do the work of a man, with the help of my children.
In February 1898, the lighthouse at Crosby on the other side of Liverpool Bay, which served as a navigation light for the new channel into the river, was destroyed by fire. The keeper, his wife, the housekeeper and a dog all died in the blaze. The fire was witnessed by Mary Williams and her daughter Bertha from the top of the Mockbeggar Tower.
It was just after midnight, on September the 2nd, 1898. My mother woke up me and my brothers and sisters. She had been to trim the light and had seen the Crosby Lighthouse on fire. We could see the flames clearly visible from the other side of Liverpool Bay. We watched the fire until dawn broke. There wasn't much we could do, except pray for the poor souls who had been caught up in it. When the coroner's report came back, the wooden staircase in the Mockbeggar Tower was replaced by one of cast iron. It was also stipulated that all lighthouses were to have an assistant keeper. My older sister Rosie took on this job. When she resigned in 1900, I took over. The work was hard, carrying oil to the top of the tower. The lamp burned 3 gallons a night, and the reservoir needed frequent refilling. Sometimes, when the weather was bad, the windows would get caked with salt, and I would have to climb out into the gallery to clean the glass.
The Port of Liverpool had been compelled to go to the expense of installing a cast-iron staircase in the Mockbeggar Tower, despite the fact that the navigation light was now of little practical use.
On July the 15th, 1908, my mother and I climbed the tower and lit the lamp for the very last time.
Like a solitary gravestone, the old Mockbeggar Tower now stands awkwardly in a dismal landscape. It's a memorial to a time in history that's difficult for us to appreciate in an age of satellite navigation and the means to travel in almost perfect comfort. The tower that once housed Hutchinson's light, a technological revolution in its day, is now silent and unoccupied, an epitaph for a forgotten way of life.
Oh, the work was hard and the wages low. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. I guess it's time for us to go, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, the voyage is done and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. Oh, I thought I heard the old man say, leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, tomorrow you will get your pay, and it's time for us to leave.